Okay friends, it's time to get started on replacing our passenger side mirror. To get the door panel off of here, let's start by the door lock switch and the window switch. If you were to use a trim tool and carefully get under this area, generally you can just carefully pry it up. On the back side of that, you're going to find two wiring harnesses. Go ahead and squeeze on the little tab and remove each of them. For this gray one, you're going to see that I have a push clip right along the side. I'll just carefully get into this area and gently pull the wiring out the back. Every time you disconnect an electrical connector, take a peek. If you see any funny colors, it's probably corrosion and that would need to be dealt with. That one looks fine, so I'll continue. That looks fine as well. Let's set this aside. Now let's move over towards this black handle. Looking at the door panel directly behind it, you're going to find a rectangular trim panel. I'll carefully use a small pocket screwdriver and gently get into this area and pop it away. Looking at the back side, you can see where all the mounting clips are. Just give them a quick inspection and then set this aside. With that panel out of the way, you're going to find two 7mm headed bolts. One over here, one right there. Go ahead and remove the pair. Now let's move down a little bit. Behind this handle, there's another panel. We're going to carefully pop that out of the way. Now I'll grab the door handle, pull on it, and remove it. Give that a quick inspection and set it aside as well. Now let's continue on by removing our two 5.5mm lower screws. You want to carefully get in between the door panel and the door. We're going to gently pry, and you're going to notice it starts popping out of place. There's a whole bunch of push clips back here. As I start putting my fingers under here, I'm going to be careful for any pinch points. Now the next thing I want to do is carefully start pulling out on the bottom while lifting this straight up. Remove your door panel. Now with the door panel out of the way, we have access to one of our mounting nuts. But that's not enough. There's going to be two others and some wiring. Let's make our way right here. We'll carefully remove this. I don't want to damage it because I will be reusing it. Now to gain access to the wiring, we're going to come right over here to the speaker. You're going to find three 6mm headed bolts. Go ahead and remove that and the speaker. Now at this point, let's disconnect the speaker wire. Right here, there's a little squeeze tab. I'll squeeze on it with my index and carefully pull it off. Go ahead and give that speaker a quick inspection and set it aside. Now let's have a look inside the door hole here. You're going to find a wire that comes down all the way from up here. That's the mirror wire. Go ahead and find the little squeeze tab. It's pretty much on the side of the window channel. I'll go ahead and press on that and then I'll separate this. I like to give both sides a quick inspection. Those look fine. Now we can leave this dangling. Let's move up to our three mounting nuts. Let's use our 11mm socket to remove each of these nuts. Now for this last one, I'm going to carefully reach up over the door. I'll hold onto the mirror so it can't go anywhere and fully remove it. Now let's grab onto the mirror. We're going to give it a little wiggle and remove it from the door. Keep in mind, the mirror does have three studs protruding out of it and you don't want it to scratch the paint. As I start pulling this out, there's also wiring that we're going to be pulling out through the door. There it is, friends. Now it's time to install our brand new mirror. Let's go ahead and carefully take that wiring and slide it through the hole in the door. As I'm sliding it down and in, I'm trying to make sure it's heading down towards that speaker hole. That's where the connector is going to go. There we are. I'll keep this right here and we'll continue on with those three mounting studs. Let's get those lined up. Once again, we're being very careful not to scratch our paint in any way. Now I'll hold that in place and continue on with my 3 mounting nuts. Let's take our mounting nut and put it right into our socket with an extension. That's going to make it easiest to start this on the stud. Once you have this one bottomed out, continue on to the other 2, and then we'll snug them up. Make sure they're nice and tight. It's important to make sure all 3 nuts are tight. You don't want your mirror vibrating on you while you're driving down the road. Now let's connect in our electrical connector. Go ahead and carefully reach into the door here, snap it in, listen for a click. There's my little click. I'm going to give it a tug to make sure it's secure. That feels good. Now it's time to reattach our speaker. Let's go ahead and grab that wiring, put it in position. Once again, listen for a click. Give it a tug. Now we can go ahead and put this in position in the door. Looking at the door, you're going to see that it has a notch over here and it has a notch down below. On the back of the speaker, on the adapter, there's going to be 2 little tabs that need to correspond and fit right in. We'll line them up, press it in. That should hold it in place temporarily, and we'll continue on with our 3 6mm mounting bolts. As I go, I'm going to leave all of these loose until they're all started. After that, I can snug them up. Let's get our weather barrier over these holes. Now it's going to be time to put the door panel back on. But before we do, you need to pay attention to all the areas where your push tabs are supposed to go. You might happen to find that some of the push tabs are still stuck in the door. If that's the case, use your trim tool, pop them out. Quick inspection, double check all the rest of the mounting holes. Okay, so now let's grab onto our door panel. We're going to have a look from the back side. You can see that I have a lot of my push pins still in here. The areas that are missing them, you want to make sure that you replace them. To replace them, if you were to look at the push clip right along the head here, you can see that it has a slot. That slot is for where the trim panel needs to go. Go ahead and slide it right in there. Double check everything, and now we can get ready for our installation. Before I put this up against the door, I want to talk to you about this area. Up along here, there's a ridge that kind of curls down. That's important to know because if you were to look at the top of the door along where the window is, there's a ridge where that fits directly into. Now, as I bring this over, I'm going to pay attention to my wiring. I don't want to bury these behind the panel and make it difficult to get to, so I'll just go ahead and take them and I'm going to put them through their corresponding hole. Now I'll bring the door panel up, and then the areas that I want to line up is, of course, that ridge that I talked to you about and our door lock knob. That's going to fit right through the hole. Now I'm going to carefully press the entire top this way and press it down at the same time. Now the next thing you want to do is look inside this area. You can see where all those push pins are, and you should be able to see where all the holes are in the door. We'll just go ahead and start lining them up, and then we'll gently press this in. Just make my way all the way around. Once you feel as though you have it up against the door, just go ahead and double check it with your finger. I want to make sure it's completely situated before I can continue on with my mounting bolts. Now let's continue on to our 7mm bolts that go behind this door handle. Start that in there. Now that they're both started, I'll snug them up. Now let's continue on to this trim piece. You've got the areas that you can see on the back here. They need to line up with their corresponding holes. Once it lines up, go ahead and carefully press it in. Double check it to make sure it's secure. Let's continue on to the window and door lock switches. As I connect them in, I'm just going to give them a light tug to make sure they're secure. Looking at the back side, you're going to find a whole bunch of alignment tabs that need to align with their corresponding holes. Give it a little wiggle to make sure it's secure. Now let's continue on to this trim piece. We're going to go ahead and pull on the handle here and we'll slide it through the hole. Line it up with where it needs to go and press it in. Let's make our way to our 5.5mm lower bolts. Go ahead and put them right in there. Okay friends, we got everything put back together. The last thing you want to do is test the mirror functionality. Put the key in the on position and use the driver's side switch to make sure it functions properly. Thanks for watching.